In terms of what we're going through, we're going to be looking at developing programming blocks, which you guys already do, and we've done a topic on this before, but developing programming blocks in terms of what is your client experience and the engagement of your clients and how it becomes a selling point for your business. So we've looked before at programming blocks for periodization. Today has very little to do with kinds of programming or techniques. It is purely about what's the benefit to your clients and how does it really on-sell the value of your service, because at the end of the day, we have to stand apart as professionals in a very, very large crowd, and our programming, it adds a experience while people are at the gym, but it also has an experience ongoing because the lifespan of a client is really dependent upon how engaged they are in our services. And certainly we will provide results, we will do training, but I'll liken it to show of hands how many people do walking lunges with clients. How many people actually explain why we're doing a walking lunge, why it's relevant, why we need to measure what they're doing and the performance requirements of that. Like, it's not always about reps, it's not necessarily about load, it might be about hip mobility. Why do we need hip mobility? How does that transfer? Or is it about unilateral stabilization? Or is it about abductor engagement? So there's a lot of things that happen in a movement that we want to prescribe for that, but too often we see trainers just go, okay, walking lunges, 10 up, 10 back. So they feel like it's mundane, but we might build it into programming and it has value, but we don't on-sell the benefit. And now our expertise, we can't expect our clients to ever understand as much comprehensiveness to the science as we will. That's why we're in this industry. But what we can do is really advocate the benefits and the results and why we're programming certain things and how it's going to translate to the results that they're looking for. So first off, I guess the big one is, when we're doing programming blocks, what are the results of this? So my preferred method is 4 weeks, because 4 weeks is often a period where we can have some kind of before and after measurement. Can do longer, but it depends on how much, if it's a very monotonous program, 4 weeks is a period where someone will stick to it and not typically get too bored. 6 weeks, especially if it's the same exercise every week, it starts to become habitual and they start to get a little bit frustrated with it. So a programming block that's based around 4 weeks has that engagement, it's interesting, and then every 4 weeks is something new. It also works well with monthly cycles, and for the most part, if we're working on a 4-week programming block, you can actually build in a lot of progression. So even if we're looking at, say, percentages, you can go from 70% to 95% in 4 weeks. You couldn't do that in 2. If we're looking at progressive load indices, so if we're looking at, say, a deadlift 100 kilos for 10, over 4 weeks that could progress to 120 for 3. And the increments each week fit nicely to what is probably like a 3.5% increase. So 4 weeks is a nice little period, and it doesn't become overbearing, it doesn't become to the point where people get frustrated by the program. There's certainly good program models out there, things like Shaco, things like Wendler, things like your conjugate methods. There's a whole measure of pre-written programs out there which run for different periods, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 12 weeks, and that's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But in terms of if you're writing a program and wanting to keep things nice and systematic and fresh, and how you tie a start or end of a program in with a potential, say, body composition assessment, so how often are we doing body composition, and how does that reflect upon the workload that's been done and the impact that's had. So if I do a body fat test, a body composition assessment at week 1, and the program block finishes 4 weeks later, and I do a retest, I can translate the results of that body composition assessment against the program completed. And then if we've only got 3 key markers of what's happening, where we've got their nutrition, we've got their training, and we've got what they're doing around that, it's easy then to discern if there's issues that they need to get on top of. Meaning if they did a program really successfully, and we did a body composition at the start and the end, and the change has not been significant, what's the likely fallback? What's wrong? Potentially nutrition, and we can reconcile what they need to correct and put more focus on into the next training block. So you can do your job really well. As trainers, we can say we have 100% ticked the box in terms of what we need to do, but are our clients falling by the wayside in terms of their accountability and their input to this engagement, to this relationship? Quality of service. So, a programming block, people these days, and it's very unfortunate, but the mean value of PT has stayed the same for about the last 3.5, 4 years. So very few of us have risen our prices in that time. And unless you climb to a point of being industry recognised, it's getting harder and harder to justify cost of service. And what people expect for their investment has become significantly higher. So now for the investment of $50 to $55 per half hour, people don't just want to turn up and be put through their paces. They want to know what they're spending money on. 4 years ago it was the same thing, but you could just have people turn up. Now if people are spending $100 an hour, 4 years ago, they just wanted to be trained hard. Now they want to know, what is my training doing for me? Why is this investment justified? And we can back that onto what is the GFC and people's spare income and what they're putting their money to. But they're still at the gym, they're still prepared to spend money with us. We want them to continue to do that. We want that ongoing spend. We need to justify it. And this can't go too far as well. If our programming is really intense and it's over the top and it's so complicated that without us they can't follow it, it can have the other effect as well. We could go into variations of grip positions and holding different tension and intramuscular load. There's all these things that we could add which are great programming variations and complications, but if we can't build it into a simple system, it's going to be lost on the person and they fail to see where that goes, and I'll explain how that builds into selling the journey later on as well. So quality of service, if that's built into our price, so if I say, okay, Amy, right, we're going to start at week 1, we've just done our strength assessment, this is where you're currently at, for what you've said your goals are, I reckon this is the best starting point. At the moment, I would qualify you as that, you're not quite a beginner, but you're definitely not in that intermediate range yet. So this is the best program that I think we can start on, and it's going to address these weaknesses that you're really showing in that strength assessment. And then if we address that and really cater to your strengths of where you're at currently, this is where you should be at the end of the next 4 to 6 weeks. From that, what I'd like to do is then take you to a program that may be this or may be that. And then from that point we can reassess. But for now, if we can really upskill you and advance your techniques, advance your skill sets, advance your confidence in the gym, this is going to be a really productive 4 weeks. We're going to do your body composition today as well, and we'll do it again in 4 weeks' time. So we'll make some nutritional recommendations, and we'll then be able to see what's been the impact of the training and the nutrition and how is that facilitating you towards exactly where you want to be. So there's no guesswork to this process. We're not just hoping that turning up to the gym you're going to get to where you want to be. This is a really scientifically calibrated method, but what I require from you is I want you to make sure that, I'm going to be there for this session, and if you want me, I can be there for that one. But you can see here you've got some homework sessions as well. I need you to really make sure that you're going to do them. Is that something that you can agree with? Can you commit to that and really help you get you across the line? Is that something that's fair? Awesome. Can you see how that quality of service, that 2 minutes of investment talking to them, is now going to get the buy-in and the engagement of them to put in the hard work as well and follow the program that I've just taken time to write, but simultaneously, the money they're spending me, the $100 per hour they're spending with me, is worth a lot more than the $100 an hour that someone else might be charging, where they're just going to turn up and tick off the minutes. Does it take a whole lot of time? Comes back to how effective you are with your programming and how you template it and how you explain it. If it's a really lengthy process for you, that might be hard. It might be something that you definitely need to on charge for. But as a minimum, you should be doing a program each month. Update it, keep it fresh, have purpose. There's some things that are hard, like Olympic lifting programs. 4-week blocks aren't always easy because you've got movement patterns and you've got things that have to be set in place before you can even move that, and you have to start layering things differently. But you can still have a focus for 4 weeks. So for the next 4 weeks, we're still going to be working on snatches, we're still going to be working on your overhead squat strength, but a big primary objective for the next 4 weeks is we want to work on your front squat. And what that's going to help is your thoracic spine strength. So when you're in that posture position of having to come up under the clean, you're going to have a lot more momentum. Does that make sense? So we've still got a programming block, but we're going to layer it in amongst stuff that's continuous. Either way, it's still sold. Our expertise and our reputation. How many of us are defined by our profile board and sit amongst the crowd? And it's unfortunate because at the end of the day, certainly, Rafi, how much have you spent in the last 2 years on education?
Great.
And more, I'd say like getting 4 or 5K at least. I've probably spent 600 this year alone, it's only March, and I would have spent maybe 1,500 last year. So on average, I'll probably spend $1,000 to $2,000 per year. And if I've been doing that for at least 12 years, it's a lot of money.
All the good ones cost $1.
Yeah. Absolutely, the better the course, the better it's going to cost more, because you're paying for higher level coaching expertise. It can get really costly, but yet we are not seen, we don't walk around. It's not like we're in the army where we've got badges on our shoulder which show that we're a highly decorated admiral. You know, like, people can't tell how good we are. And especially in an industry where sometimes we are, you know, we're pigeonholed by our appearance. So as someone who's a bodybuilder, I've got a decisive advantage because I perhaps know more about resistance training, but that's not always the case. There's some really advanced coaches out there who are not big, they're not muscular by any sense of the word, yet their understanding of the science of hypertrophy far exceeds mine. And it's only because of their reputation that they're known by that, but if you look at them and if that was the only gauge you have, it can be really difficult. So one of the best things that we have to our advantage is the way people observe us interacting with our clients. And, you know, whether it's pieces of paper or whether it's on a digital solution, whatever it looks like, if we have a program and it looks like we're following something that is structured and regimented and purposeful, and we have interaction with that, rather than just going, okay, we're going to do this next. If I've got my client looking at me saying, this is where you were, this is what I need you to be doing, this is what we're going to do, and they go and do a performance, and that performance is quite impressive to the people looking on as well, all of a sudden it's really relevant. Compare that now, going back to the lunge analogy, if we've got someone doing lunges, and let's say we're starting training at the same time as, let's say I'm training a girl, she's 30 years old, her goal, her ambition is to lose 10 kilos of body fat. We're doing some unilateral warm-up stuff first and really working on the flexibility of the knee. I'm going to use lunges as a warm-up exercise because I want to open up the movement of the mobility of the knee, mobility of the hip. And so we're doing walking lunges and I'm explaining, and I take her over from lunges onto squats and we do some mobility exercises, and then she's 30 years old, she might only be 50 kilos and she squats 80. And the other person who's watching goes, wow. And I've had her through those moments interacting with me in my programming, and now it looks like something quite magical is happening. There's something more to this than just doing lunges. And maybe even the lunges look slightly different. I'm not just walking, but you know, I'm maybe raising my arm to open up more stretch to the iliopsoas. I'm maybe changing my foot position and working on a lateral stretch to get a little bit more adducted. Like, we do things and we explain things, but if we're not selling them to our clients, other people aren't going to sell us. They're not going to see us doing the same thing. So be involved in your own programming, and selling that back to people makes a big difference. So for expertise and reputation, this is something that helps us. In our first 4 weeks with someone, it can be make or break. Until someone's a long-term client, they're not necessarily going to commit to ongoing training with us, but a lot of people will commit to a preliminary 4-week period. So if we can make a really, you know, a precise impact in their training, their results, in their life with that, and it just all backs onto a program and how we sell and how we interact with them with that program, their value of our expertise then develops our reputation to that person. Does that make sense, guys? But if we're not sitting down with them and going, okay, for the next 4 weeks, we're going to do this, this, this. So Charles, for example, you know, I've seen some of your programs and they're good. You've got full body programming, but if you've got dumbbell bench presses, are you selling the purpose of that dumbbell bench? Too many of us go, right, we're going to do dumbbell bench press. And they don't know what is the benefit of a dumbbell bench over a flat bench over a machine press. If I say, okay, our goal is to really focus on a big strength phase in 4 weeks' time, at the moment we're really trying to master stability and also your understanding of where one shoulder posture sits to another. Dumbbells are going to be a great benefit to this. We're going to start off light today. Over the next 4 weeks we'll look at progressing that load. So let's get you warmed up. There's all of a sudden that 30-second speech about why we're going to do a dumbbell bench press gives us expertise, accelerates our reputation. That now, do you think they're going to go, I understand why I'm doing dumbbell bench press, and I understand why I feel like maybe what I really wanted is, there's another girl over there doing flat bench and she looks like she's doing really heavy weight and I've got these 6 kilo dumbbells. Why am I being held back? I feel strong. And we don't sell our programming decisions. You don't have to sit there and, you know, explain a 5,000 word essay, but you do have to really sell each component of that. That can get hard if we're writing a 5-day program and you were explaining every single exercise. We could end up with some issues. Like, we're going to be there for a long time. Today, on this day, you're going to do squats. The benefits of squats are, from that you're going to transfer leg presses. Leg presses do this and this and this. Then you're going to go, heck, it's going to take a long time. So what I would recommend is, When I sell a program, I look at multiple components. And I've gone through this before, but let's recap on them again. What is my primary objective? Of all the things that we're trying to achieve right now, what is my primary objective? And that will really be clear in your programming. Whether it's a compound movement, whether it's addressing a mobility issue, whether it's developing a motor pattern they currently don't have, whether it's getting them introduced to a kind of training that they're not familiar with. Sometimes the primary objective is just getting people started under resistance exercise because they've never done it. But what is my primary objective? Does my client understand what that is? And then in my program, I may have a secondary and a tertiary objective, where in order of importance, these things, so if my primary objective for this 4 weeks is to really focus on maximum strength, my secondary objective may be working on different angles and being able to make sure that I keep everything in balance. So if I've got a big goal to increase my squat, I want to make sure that I don't actually overdevelop quadricep strength, so my anterior chain against my posterior. So my secondary objective will have things like hamstring curls or stiff leg deadlifts or something to actually address that, but it may not have deadlifts because I'm doing a big squat focus and that person is incompetent to have both. Certainly not if it's the same day. I don't need to sell this stuff because that's not necessarily the goal of that person right now, but I 100% need to sell that. Does that make sense? It means there's probably only 2 or 3 key exercises in that program which really need highlighting and with emphasising why it can dramatically change things. I liken this then, bring it back to if you're sitting with a person for the first time and how many people are we in front of that think they're competent in the gym. So they are currently training, they've got a gym membership and for some reason they're sitting down with us for the first time, they haven't decided that they're going to do PT, but they've agreed to doing a consult or a comp session with us. And we're now actually going through and we're doing some assessment and we're looking at what their goals are and what their current training is. And in terms of why would I have any benefit to you, it's going to come back to that. What is your primary objective relative to your current goal? And where is the urgency of achieving that relative to your current goal? If you truly want to be stronger and you're currently turning up to the gym and you're training 5 times a week, but at the moment all your training is doing a tour of different machines and kind of putting in effort but you're not qualifying or quantifying what you're doing, you're just training hard. The next step for you is to go from being an intermediate athlete to being advanced. Let's start putting some metrics around what you're going to do. So let's start putting some numbers in training. At the moment, you know you can do a 2-plate squat, and you know you can do that for a couple. You assume you can do 80 for maybe 6, but you're not actually recording those performances and you're not seeing how that layers and translates to the big goal, which is to see that go up. So if we change that and start putting some very, very specific numbers around that and what you need to achieve to get to that primary objective, then we'll see you get there. There's no more guesswork. It's if you do it, if you tick that box, you'll be exactly where you want to be. But we need to make sure that happens. So that's my sales pitch. That's what I'm sitting down in front of someone. I've now justified the invested cost because that person can already train for the sake of training. They can already push hard, but they can't reach their primary objective. Yeah? Right. Sell the journey. Exactly what I've just been doing. A program sells the journey because too often a goal has a very sparse timeline. You know, especially for our guys where muscle gain is primary goal. You know, no one is going to put on 10 kilos of muscle in a light like it's not going to happen like that. But we can break it down into segmented components. Putting on every single kilogram of muscle is an achievement towards that goal. So first off, how are we quantifying that? Are we doing body composition assessment? I'd hope so. Are our programming blocks relative to this? So what needs to happen to put on that 10 kilos of muscle? Let's put some assumptions that this is going to take between, say, 4 months and 8 months. There's definitely going to be some nutritional considerations here. But in terms of your training, we need you to see some really significant strength gains. So turning up and training just for the sake of training is not going to cut it anymore because your goal is not about being able to train hard. Your goal is about a very, very specific outcome. And for a specific outcome, you need a specific performance. So what I want to see happen is, let's start off with a strength assessment. Let's see where you're at currently. And that's going to give us a benchmark for where we can move forward from. So I'm not going to be able to tell you anything yet about exactly what the best program is until I see how you can currently move and how strong you are. And once we do that, we can then say, okay, if this is where you are now and this is where you want to be, we can make some assumption and say, this is what those lifts are going to need to look like. And we can then sell it to them. We do the strength assessment and then say, okay, based on what I've seen, I believe this would be the best starting program for you. From this point, we'll ideally probably move into this program type or this program type. Why do you think I might talk about the next program? Something to look forward to, and also, how many people have worked, how many of you guys have actually sat in front of someone who, or you talk to someone and they go, oh, I'm okay, I've got a program. They might have been doing the same program for 6 months, 2 years. Even if it's 5 weeks, it's expired, it's done its time. And they try and recycle it, and it doesn't keep working. We see them do it all the time. I see guys who last March, they were doing the same tour of the machines, lifting the same weights that they are this March. And do they look like they've gone anywhere? No. They love their training, and that's awesome, but they're not achieving their primary objective. They could do the same tour of the machines and just put some metrics to their training and be leaps and bounds ahead. But no one's sold on the journey of, you know what, if we actually just did this one little element, dramatically different outcome. So I sell A that goes into B because I want that idea of continuity. You know, continuing on with me means getting into each step. We're going to educate, we're going to develop, we're going to become confident, we're going to learn new patterns, we're going to set up some self-sufficiency so you're not just reliant on me. Let's say I get hit by a bus tomorrow. Are your gains, are your goals, are your results purely dependent on me, or is it based on what you've learned in the time that you've been able to spend with me so you can keep that happening? So the difference between a good trainer and a coach is I'm going to make sure that it's not just coming in and holding you accountable. I want to make sure you know more and more and more, and you're able to really implement that. And if something ever happens, if you can't afford PT, or if you don't want to do PT anymore, or if something happens to me, God forbid, you're going to be able to really make sure that your momentum is far better than what it is now. How good does that sound? Awesome. So sell the journey. How's it relative? How's it relative to primary objective? Why is my programming going to make this happen, and how is that relative to your goals? Do you think then the value of our program has more emphasis? How many of your current clients actually truly understand the value of your program? And I'll be very honest, guys, if your clients turned up and did the same thing without you there, they get the same results. You're not magic fairies. You don't wave the magic muscle gain wand and something happens. It's our expertise that truly makes things happen, and our physical presence creates accountability and also some enthusiasm. I'm sure we've all got some of those clients who they don't really love the gym, but they know they need to be here and they want to invest in it. But it's our programming and our structure and our process which actually gets them to where they need to be. So then if we sell them that journey and we keep reselling that every point and how it translates, and sometimes we need to pull people backwards. Who's had clients where they want a deadlift and it looks awful, and they just want to keep adding weight because they're feeling pretty good right now, they're not injured. So we've got to pull them back and work on technique because we know the outcome, but they feel fine. If we don't sell that journey, they feel like we're doing them a disservice and they want to do it on their own or do another trainer. If we actually sell that and okay, cool, what you're doing right now, this is where you're going to get, and then you're going to get injured, and then you're not going to be able to do it at all. So let's spend the next 4 weeks working on correcting this, because then the end outcome is you can avoid that and get to a much bigger goal. There was a guy last week, he was squatting 4 plates a side, and it was awful. Do you think he's going to get under 5 plates? Never. It's not going to happen. He can't even do 4 plates truly yet. If he was actually working for the next 4 weeks to correct that and do 4 plates properly, he can progress that movement. Someone's got to sell him that journey though. So, very, very simply, if you don't sell every single program, this isn't just a first time, every program, okay, we've reset the goal, we've done your body composition, we're still this far off where you want to get to the current goal, this is our big primary objective, this is what I require from you, this is not just me, this is what I require from you. If you're rocking up on legs day, and we're going to do legs and shoulders that day, and you're not mobile, and you haven't eaten, and you haven't done everything that you need to do, your performance is going to be terrible. And considering that it's your performance in the gym that makes the outcome, you swiping your barcode does not make magical legs grow. It's not that easy. So you need to rock up ready to perform. So I need from you, I will be here to coach you to excellent performances, but I need you to make sure that you warm up. That you, if I give you homework for foam rolling or something like that, and that will change because mobility always changes. But if I give you homework, I need you to prioritize it. I need you to do it, even if it's 11 p.m. at night. Invest that 5 or 10 minutes. If I need you to make sure you're beaten, you've got to do it. So if you invest with that, if you partake and participate with me, we can make it a much more effective thing, and you will guarantee to get towards your goal. If you don't, I can only do so much on my own here. It's really you that has to do this. And the same thing goes with nutrition. So, sell the journey, get the commitment and the physical and emotional buy-in from them. How much better a client do you think they're going to be? If someone's psychologically engaged in this process as well, do you think they're more likely to continue to want to pay? Yeah? Because they're not just turning up and going, oh God, I hate gym. I just turn up today, I my trainer. Bill? Yeah. You know, these people exist. If they're like, oh God, I hate the gym, today's legs day, oh my God, but on the plus side, I'm aiming for a PB today, I'm going to get in early, I'm just going to do it, and it'll be awesome if I do it. Right? They may still begrudge having to do hard work. Some people just don't like hard work, let's be honest. But at least they really value the end outcome, and they're conscious of the end outcome, and it doesn't feel like they're just turning up for the sake of turning up. So if you've got clients that aren't achieving goals, there's a really good chance that this is missing. You may actually be writing awesome programs, but they're not engaged in those programs, so they don't want to put in 100% because they don't even see the value. You haven't sold them that journey, you haven't sold them the goal, the milestone. And as well, if this is big picture, let's say we've got someone that's a weight loss goal and they're just really at a point where their nutrition is not going to be amazing. So they're not going to put in 100% of nutrition. So they've got dependency on us. So let's say we've got a client, they see us 2 half-hour sessions a week, their nutrition is really poor, and we've got to make that 2 half-hours a week incredible. And so we need from them maximum effort, maximum intensity, and guaranteed progression. And they rock up with an attitude of, oh, I don't want to be here. And they try and chat the breaks, and kind of, you guys have had that, right? You try and plan maybe 90 seconds rest, and they want to start a conversation about, oh, my girlfriend the other day, we've got it, right? It happens. And this is where our program is trying to get them, because their goal is all the way out here, and we need to be selling this part, and that part, and that part, to keep them engaged and make them excited about getting to there, because there, that means we're one step closer to get them involved, get that buy-in, right? There's a reason why good trainers have their clients freak out if they ever go away, is because their journey is all going to fall apart. Something's going to go wrong. And that's awesome, because it means you're irreplaceable. It means that your program is actually not complete without you. So the program is definitely going to get them the results. And even though if they did do it on their own, they would still get there. But it's incomplete without you, because you facilitate this process. Yeah? Right. Qualifying and quantifying is something that we really struggle to do, and you certainly have to spend a lot of time learning the mathematics and the physics of the sport to get that 100% right. But qualifying is the easy part. If we qualify the specifics of a goal, it gets them there. What do you guys think that means? So qualifying the specifics of the goal, what does that actually mean? Someone, anyone?
Okay, specific reaction goal. Okay, so not just like doing everything, just get.
So like if it's weight loss, you know, what is the number?
You want to do Olympic lifting, like do like Olympic lifting, not just cardio.
Yeah.
Know what you mean?
Well, like, so people have a goal, and they've got a broad terminology for a goal. So someone will say, I want to get stronger. I see that trainers do this all the time, for many, many years. If someone says, I really want to get stronger, and we put an assumption around what stronger means to them, all we had to ask, what does stronger mean to you? Oh, I'd love to be able to do a deadlift. Okay, awesome.
The worst one is fit. I want to be fit.
I know, it's an ambiguous term. It has no, if you try and look up the dictionary meaning of fit, it's different across every dictionary, it's different across every language. So we're then trying to sell them our misunderstanding of their terminology. So qualifying exactly what a goal is, and then we can qualify that back into our programming. So we're going to be working on a kettlebell squat, and you're seeing hips at the moment. You love doing motor pattern build-ups. So if someone wants to be able to be strong in the squat, and we start them with a kettlebell goblet squat because we do this, we do this, we do this. Why am I doing this exercise, and how have I qualified that this exercise and this programming is relevant to there, and why is that relevant to there, and then your goal is just on the other side of that. So I'm really excited about going from a kettlebell goblet squat to getting under a barbell, then I'm excited about going into box squats, then I'm excited about going into proper heavy squats. The program has a lifespan, it has a growth, it has this natural journey, and I can sell each part of it because I qualified the goal and I qualified my programming decisions against that. Quantifying it is a little bit harder because there is some assumable mathematics, and for the only two systems out there, I was involved in the research of one of them. The other is actually a powerlifting system, and so if you're in powerlifting, you would have heard of Lossbrenner. There's some assumptions on certain performance elements that will relate to physical outcomes. But I've got to say they're assumptions because they're not 100%, they're not precise. And there's definitely error, but general rule of thumb, if someone gets quantifiably stronger, they will have quantifiably more muscle. And unless it's just efficiency of movement, if they get stronger and they're in a calorie saturated state, whether it's pulling extra calories from stored body fat or whether it's eating calories, they will have a hypertrophy effect, they'll have more muscle. If someone wants to get fitter, and for them fitness means their capacity to sprint for a period of time, if they invest time in doing stacked sprint series and working on their lactic acid threshold, the ANT threshold stuff, working on their gait, their breathing, working on their rhythm of movement, their psychological ability to draw themselves away from that moment of pain and focus on a clock, or there's a lot of things that we can do around that, some training parameters that we can teach. And if we can quantify that, it's guaranteed they will get fitter under the definition of what they mean by that. So if we can qualify and quantify exactly what needs to happen, our program is very, very specific. This is going to increase this far more than we could ever value. The dependency, how much can someone do that and duplicate that on their own? No chance. But they can stronger if it's a broad sense of the term, and we haven't investigated that and then put some depth to that meaning and then solve the journey of what are the qualified and quantified objectives based on that. So you want to get stronger, what does strong mean to you? You'd love to be able to deadlift, great. So what we need to do based on what you've seen, what I've seen you do in terms of your movement, this is step A. From step A we need to go to step B. From step B we've got the options of C or D, but let's take it one step at a time. So for now, this is what we need to focus on, and for this to be successful, this is what I need you to achieve. Do you think they can do that journey on their own? No. They now know that they need you to hold their hand for that, or they've got to give up on their goal. So option A is some investment for some outcome, or option B is give up on the dream, give up on the investment. Versus, we take them in and we do some squats with the exact same program, but we didn't sell the journey, we didn't quantify step by step exactly what they need to do. So they then go, well, I feel like I could do this on my own, but they don't understand the relevance of where each part of that process is going. The more technical the movement, the less that is the case. But if you've got a beginner and you need to start them on beginner movements, people don't see the value in that because you haven't told them the journey and you haven't qualified or quantified exactly what they need to do to get there. So they feel like they could do it on their own, but they're never going to progress. Is that simple enough? It is all in the chat. It's the power of the chat. The best trainers can chat and they can chat strong, but they're also, it's not just throwing crap to the wind. It is really conscientious of these 5 key points. They're selling results. They've got a quality of service which is based around effective programming and effective delivery of service. They're emphasising their expertise and reputation without ego, but it's all about, I'm going to be able to do this for you because this is my understanding of the science. I'm going to sell you exactly the journey that you need to follow because it's based on that science. I'm going to qualify and quantify exactly what I believe are your objectives and what you need to achieve and what timelines for that to happen. The downside, if you're not using some kind of software programming or if you're not using some kind of tablet or whatever, this whole process can get a little bit tricky. We've all got clients like this, and I'm not exception from this. We've all got clients where you'll go in and it's a peak time and you want to work on building towards bench press strength. Every bench press is taken and every week you seem to have to change the exercise. If you haven't been in that circumstance, you will. But we're all victim to that. So using this method can be really effective. So you can do exactly that, but you can just use matrix blocks to have programming that works on the fly, and it just extends out periods, but it means that over a larger period, so for the next 4 weeks, this is for a client that you've got them booked in at a peak time, you know you're going to struggle for equipment. Over the next 4 weeks, we're focusing on development of strength. The end outcome being, at some point between the next 4 weeks and 6 weeks, we're going to see a measurable increase in barbell squat. And then the exercises that you're going to have are going to be squats, of course. You might have a kettlebell squat. We might have a front squat. Leg press. Hack squat. And certainly, other than some effect on mobility or perhaps working on eccentric chain stuff, for the most part, those are the 4 movements that will probably best help that. Can we agree on that? Yep. So we'd love to do that every week. Everyone's in the squat rack, can't get in there. Okay, we're going to do a kettlebell goblet squat. Why are we doing this? All right. So tonight, squat rack's taken. Let's make tonight's focus thoracic posture, and I want explosive input. So what I want output, I want explosive output. So rather than just thinking about standing up, I'm looking for the speed at which you can generate velocity into that weight. And then I record it. So I might have 12 by 10, 16 by 10, 24 by 5. And that was their workout for squats. If we ended up doing that same exercise 4 weeks down the track, I might have 16 by 15, 24 by 9, 32 by 3. Can we show that we've improved? So it doesn't matter which exercise I was stuck doing. For that kind of person, assuming it's, especially if it's like a half-hour session, at least in that instance, I can be versatile between exercises, and as long as at some point, so if that's my 5 to 6 weeks lead up, as long as at some point in that 4 to 6 weeks, I'm doing this, and this is where we celebrate because all the magic happens, and they're now lifting a bigger weight. They're balloons, by the way, in case you thought that was something else. So, look, I'll put it. Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. So, at some point, we're recording that, it gets exciting, they're moving towards that goal, but we can actually measure that and we can sell the value of each exercise. How is this relevant to this? So my primary objective is right there, right? But if I'm stuck on a leg press, all right, a leg press is a really facilitated movement. There's not a lot of stabilization involved, our hips are anchored, we don't use a lot of posterior chain, but we have an enormous ability to drive out of the legs. What I want you to be conscious on is we don't want too much quad push and no glute hamstring activity. So what we're going to be looking for on this is not just your ability to press load, but your ability to work in the right order. So we want glutes, then hamstrings, then quads, and that's going to be representative because then a squat is going to be from that bottom position, glutes, hamstrings, quads, and that is a leg press. So then I can leg press the weight that's on my back. I just solved the movement, it's still now really relative to the goal, but we're not just, okay, let's get on the leg press. Assuming their goal is strength. If we're doing conditioning work, if we're doing fitness stuff, totally different story. But for those people that strength is a good goal, that's what they want to work on, you're justifying it, you're quantifying it, and these matrix blocks just simply allow you, over that 4 to 6 weeks, you can see what happens. Then if that's just in a notebook, so if you're not even using software, if that's just in a notebook, and then you're moving down the track, and you can actually see, okay, flip back, so we haven't done a legs focus for the last 4 weeks, let's look back and where were you last time we did legs focus? Is that easy enough? So you may have a big upper body focus. I've got one guy who won't even train legs. It breaks my heart. I don't know why anyone would want to do that. But he won't let me train his legs. But I do this for all the other muscle groups. I know where he's been, I know what he's working on. So we just did a big row focus and he ended up doing bent over rows with 160 kilos. So it's a new PB and he's got injury concerns, so I can't do the same exercises. I'm actually limited to kind of 2 to 3 exercises per muscle group because of those injury concerns. He won't do homework, he won't do any mobilization, he won't see a physio. So I'm working these tight parameters by using this method. I know, okay, last time we did unilateral pull downs, you did 50 kilos a side, and you got that for 12, you did 40 kilos a side, you did that for 18. So today, starting on 50, you need to beat 12. Just simple ways, measures of progression. I know he's getting stronger. He feels like I'm the best coach for him. He's actually a really easy guy to train because I just tour the equipment. But training at 6 p.m. at night doesn't matter because I'm not limited to a particular exercise. I can use those matrix blocks, and if I've got, he'll go through 4 muscle groups. I've just got 4 matrix blocks, and it'll always culminate in a measure of performance every 4 to 6 weeks, which resells my value. Why you train with me? Because every 4 to 6 weeks you are definably and quantifiably stronger than you were previously. Does that make sense, guys? So, if there's any other questions, I'll just turn the opener off. If there's any other questions, you guys can answer in a minute. Just understand that when you're using these matrix blocks, you need to record every performance, not just the best one, because even the little ones count.